Hello, my name is Janice B. Gordon. This is Scale Your Sales podcast. Welcome to the Scale Your Sales podcast, listed number 9 of 42 best podcasts for every sales professional in 2021. I am Janice B. Gordon, the customer growth expert, recommended by LinkedIn as one of 15 innovative sales influencers to follow in 2021. My next guests are the instigator and producer of the forthcoming book, Heels to Deals: How Women Are Dominating in B2B, business-to-business sales, which amplifies the voices of diverse female sales leaders and inspires the next generation of sales professionals. Lofty ambitions, you might say. Well, the book is co-authored by over 33 sales leaders sharing their experiences. In this episode, we discuss why this is the right time right now for this book, Heels to Deals, and how it resonates with women currently in sales and those considering a sales career. The stories are varied and personal and inspiring. So let me introduce my guests. Heidi Solomon Orlick. She is an award-winning BPO industry veteran of over 30 years of global sales executive leadership experience. She is VP of Global Sales of VXI Global Solutions, a $625 million multinational outsourcing company. She is also founder and CEO of Girlz Who Sell. Bridgett McGowen Hawkins, founder of BMcTALKS LLC, the parent company of BMcTALKS Press. In 2016, she was inspired after being laid off to make it her focus to help go-getters use their voice and internal stories to impact the world. So welcome to Scale Your Sales podcast, Bridgett and Heidi. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on board, but actually I'm probably more on board with you two than you're on board with me. So Girlz Who Sell, tell me more about that. I know we've had you, Heidi, on the podcast before, but it'd be lovely for the audience to find out more how this all came about.
Well, first of all, Janice, thank you so much for having Bridgett and I. We appreciate the opportunity to be here and be able to talk a bit more about Girlz Who Sell, but even more importantly, our new book coming out, Heels to Deals: How Women Are Dominating in Business-to-Business Sales. But Girlz Who Sell is a passion project, or started out as a passion project in the latter part of 2019, and we officially launched in January of 2020. And really the organization was set up to not only help close the gender gap in business-to-business sales, which is pretty dramatic, but also to build the largest pipeline of diverse early-stage female sales talent. So there are a lot of great organizations out there that are working with women who are already in sales, who want to take their careers to the next level. Where I saw a gap was actually positioning sales as a viable career choice for women. And so Girlz Who Sell is focused on working with high school and college-age women, early college graduates, and career transitioners, just kind of opening up the opportunity that sales has to offer.
You've got to have a pipeline, haven't you? We know that in sales, unless you have a pipeline, it's not going to work. So it's a really great and important focus. So Bridgett, tell me more about BMcTALKS.
Sure. So BMcTALKS Press is an independent publishing company. Here's the deal, Janice. Traditional publishing is an option for only about 1% of the population. That means those big 5 publishing companies. They're only going to pick up the big names, the big celebrities. And so you're thinking there's 99% of amazing talent, incredible ideas like Heidi's and Girlz Who Sell. What option do they have? And that's where BMcTALKS Press comes in as an independent publishing company, where we take those fantastic ideas, forward thinking, the ones that are elevating people, supporting people, giving them ideas for how to go from good, better to their absolute best. Those are the kinds of books we publish. We publish books of professionals, business owners, entrepreneurs, professional speakers. If you've got a great idea, if you are a rock star in your industry, then those are the kinds of books that we publish.
Don't you just love how enthusiastic Bridgett is? You know,
oh, I know,
and
she's incredible. I mean, I fell in love with Bridgett from the moment I met her. So
tell me about that. The moment you met her, how did you two come together?
Well, you know, I'll give my version of the story, and then Bridgett, it's sort of like a marriage, right? Like you get asked, like, how did you guys meet? And you know, there's you know, my version and Bridgett's version, and then probably the truth in between. But anyway, you know, Bridgett reached out to me, I guess in 2019, right, Bridgett? I think that
it was. Yeah, see, here's where it comes, where you have a version and I have a version. I think, was it 2009? No, it was 2020. I'll tell you, Heidi, it was 2020. It was 2020.
Okay.
My good friend, Simone Morris, and I had the wonderful idea on International Women's Day to put together this book. So in 2020, I reached out to
that was it. I've lost track of time with the pandemic. It just seems like the last 3 years is just meshed into one big year. But so Bridgett reached out. I think you just had found my content on LinkedIn, and I was talking a lot about sales and sales leadership, and our values were really aligned. And Bridgett and Simone were publishing a book on leadership. Which was called Upward.
Leadership Lessons for Women on the Rise.
Leadership Lessons for Women on the Rise, right? And I loved it, right? And it was, you know, was telling stories of women in leadership and inspiring the, you know, up and coming emerging generations. And so being someone that's always been focused on mentorship and wanting to help other women, I thought, oh, wow, this is really cool. So I agreed to contribute a chapter to the book. And for me, you know, I had wanted to publish a book, but 1, I was terrified. 2, I had no idea how to go about it. So this was a fantastic opportunity for me to take a baby step into becoming a published author and sharing some of my nuggets of wisdom. And the experience was amazing. Just working with Bridgett and her team, and the quality of the book, and the diverse women that she and Simone brought to the table were extraordinary. And so following that, I had contacted Bridgett and said, hey, you know, I have an idea for another book, and I don't think there's anything out there like this. And, you know, let me run it by you and see what you think. And so I said, you know, similar to Upward, I'd love to do a book that amplifies the voices of women in sales. And I want it to be a book by women, you know, for women in sales, with a female-owned publishing company. And because what better way to inspire the next generation of young women to consider a career in sales than to read the stories and hear the advice of women, diverse women from around the world that are at the top of their game. And Bridgett was like, oh, let's do this. Absolutely. Let's see if there's anything out there like that. So we started to do some research, and there's just nothing. Women, you know, women in general are underrepresented, you know, in the publishing field as well. So not only sales, but forget it, women writing sales-oriented books are, you know, underrepresented as well. So I guess the rest, as they say, is history. I hand selected, you know, Bridgett and I struck a deal. I started out doing my research and really trying to determine who the movers and shakers, you know, who were out there. And of course, Janice, you were one of them. So thank you for contributing a chapter. But I was very intentional. This was not just a random selection of women or just, you know, throwing stuff out there and going on LinkedIn and asking, you know, 1,000 women if they might be interested in contributing a chapter and hoping that they would agree. I was incredibly intentional with selecting a very diverse group of women to participate in the book, because I wanted all different kinds of stories and backgrounds to be represented. And, you know, what started out as a book, you know, to tell stories has just become so much more, because the stories are absolutely extraordinary. Bridgett, what's your version?
Copy, paste. I mean, that's exactly how things went down, if you will. I absolutely loved your chapter, M Upward. My favorite part, probably in Upward and in where you write about this in Heels to Deals, is where you, well, no, I have a couple of favorite parts, but I know this is a limited show. I know we only have so much time, but I know there was this one part where you wanted to work in your dad's company. And his response was, Heidi, no, girls don't do that. I mean, that is an exact quote from the book. And you're like, what, really? Hands on hips? I will show you, right? And
yeah,
and
girls can't be in sales. Sales is the boy.
Yeah, right. What are you talking about? Let me show you that girls can not only be in sales, but dominate sales. So I love how you talked about that. And then this was something else that really caught my attention. You also talked about how oftentimes women will see a job description, and we will, if we don't check every single box, every single qualification, oftentimes we do not apply. And I wish I could put it the way you put it, but you were just kind of like, you know what? A gentleman, I think, told you, it doesn't matter if you are 100% qualified or not. If you know deep down inside you can do it, just put your hat in the ring and do it. And I'm like, if so many more girls and women could receive that message. So I just loved your chapter in Upward. I love your introduction in Heels to Deals. Everybody, you need to read. You need to read the whole book, right? But you really need to read Heidi's introduction and some of the chapters. I mean, Janice's chapter, I absolutely love. And I think we need to change the title of it. I think it's something like Go From Zero to Hero. It probably should be Go From Zero to Shiro, but.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Maybe, Bridgett, you can talk about our intentionality on diversity.
Yes, yes. When I tell you, Janice, just about every call in the beginning was focused on who are the faces. And it wasn't just the faces on the surface, but their backgrounds, their education, their paths to leadership and sales. Just, you know, it was so important to Heidi. I can't even articulate how much of a great amount of significance it was to her that the voices and the stories were diverse, because Heidi wants, and I want, every woman to pick up this book and read a chapter and see herself. I want anybody to be able to open up and read Shrudi's chapter and say, oh, I can identify with that. Read Chantel's chapter and say, yes, I can identify with that. Read Jen's chapter. That's what we wanted. We wanted them to be able to say, that's not me. I have no clue. What is she talking about? I can't do that. And that was just at the top of the list. at the top of the list with every single conversation that we had. And
even
Heidi was constantly,
even with the cover, like
yes,
even not only the authors, but the cover and it was really, really important because to me, you know, and Bridgett shared, you know, our values are very aligned. It's all about representation, and representation matters. And these young girls can't be what they can't see. And so for you know, for us in putting this book together, it was incredibly important to show that even though all of us, all 33 women in this book came from incredibly different backgrounds, some from, you know, generational poverty, some from homelessness, some from abusive relationships, some from being, you know, single moms with $2 in their pocket, you know, trying to raise children. I mean, the stories are just extraordinary, but that somehow, some way, we all found our way into professional sales. And, you know, in some cases, it saved our lives.
And I think that's an important point. It is a global book, and
yes,
wherever you are in the world, and the stats on women in sales hasn't improved very much in the last 40 years. And so it's a lonely place to be, because you'll always find that there aren't, at the moment, that it's changing, a bit too slow for my liking. You'll always find it's a lonely place to be. So you need a reference point to know that you are not alone. There is somebody that you can identify with or has been through that. And what I love about the book is there's always a positive ending, isn't there? So it inspires more women to continue doing what they're doing, because it's recognition. You are in the right place, you are doing the right, you're not alone. And for those that are interested, knowing that you're going to go through some challenges, that's the only way to grow, but actually you come out the other end a better person. So that's what I love about the book. So what was the intention to make sure that the stories were personal, but also that they had a real lesson at the end of it?
Well, Heidi, I'm going to start and then you can chime in, but
sure.
Heidi was very particular about the questions that she wanted each lady to answer so that we could get the personal, we could get a sense of who was this lady on these black and white pages. And so she started off by asking, what was your path to sales? And like Heidi said, so many shared how they were coming out of poverty. Some of them were coming from getting pregnant in high school and thinking, my goodness, what am I going to do now? Just the questions were very, very deliberate. And then the other questions were asking, well, what are some myths that need to be busted when it comes to women in sales? And what are some challenges you've had to overcome? And what is your advice to someone who's considering a career in sales? And, you know, I worried that we would get the exact same advice over and over again, but no, not at all. So in terms of making it very personal, but also making sure that people learn a lesson, that they have a takeaway, it was in those questions where Heidi and I mean, we would, how about this? Well, yeah, I like that, but let's change this. Well, what about this? Well, no, put it in this order. I mean, we spent so much time. I mean, Heidi, we should have been logging our hours just to see.
Oh my gosh. And yeah, so that's perfect. I mean, that's exactly kind of how the questions came, but I think I wanted it, you know, it had to be a balance between sharing these fabulous stories. But if the book didn't have some takeaways or actionable advice and guidance, then it's just, I mean, it'd be a great book to read still. But what we felt would be more powerful is that, you know, young women could pick up this book, one, see themselves in the book and say, you know, wow, I could do this, right? Like I could see myself in professional sales, and then say, okay, and, you know, look at the guidance of this 33 women that I can take action now, whether it's, you know, this is applying for jobs, or this is how you interview, or, you know, these are, you know, in fact, the beginning of the book is, we have a section that says 10 things that you can do right now to get into professional sales, like right now, today. So that was really important to me. The other thing is, and maybe this is a question, you know, kind of leading into a question that you were going to ask, Janice, but it was, you know, women, how do I say this? There's a negative perception out there that women are unable to work together, that they're unable to collaborate, that women are not kind to each other, and that big projects like this are impossible just because, you know, how are you going to bring 33 diverse women from around the world and get them all to agree, particularly all the A-type. We're all A-type personalities, right? And I'll tell you, it hasn't always been, you know, easy. But the one thing I wanted to also show with this book is women we can do that. We can work on these big projects together. And when we come together, powerful things happen, right? We are better together. So we need to stop thinking that, you know, we have to compete for these few, you know, leadership positions that are available, and that, you know, paying it forward and amplifying the voices of other women and thinking outside of yourself is the answer. So that was really important to me too. This was not, I mean, yeah, did I get some benefit exposure? Sure. Did Girlz Who Sell get some great branding? Absolutely, 100%. But I will tell you, that was not the forefront or intention of the book. The intention of the book was really to highlight women, other women.
And I think that really comes out in the Laurie Richardson and Jill Conrath that wrote the foreword for the book. Yeah. They are the leading lights in demonstrating collaboration, setting up networks, encouraging women to professionalize themselves. Jill Conrath would write a book and, you know, creating a space for more women in sales to be on the stage with the men, and Laurie as well. What they have done is actually absolutely remarkable in the industry. So I think that very much comes through in actually having them write the foreword for the book, setting that intention.
Yeah, I agree. And Samantha McKenna writing the letter to the reader, she also is just someone that I have a very high level of admiration for, and she is carrying the torch for women in sales. And, you know, her so love her contribution. And then Farnoosh Brock, who also wrote a letter to the reader, was a completely different perspective, and it was important for me and myself and Bridgett to include that, because when I first approached Farnoosh, she was like, I'm not really, you know, in sales, right? Like, why should I be in a book that is talking about sales? And I'm like, Farnoosh, you're in sales. Everybody's in sales. Sales is a life skill, but okay, let's put that aside. But what I love about Farnoosh's message is that she talks about how sales is about service. And if you put service first, then the sales will come. And that, to me, was a really important message, particularly as we try to dispel some of the negative perception about what sales is and what sales isn't, because sales is about serving.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so why now, Bridgett? Why do you think that this book landing now, post-pandemic-ish, why is it right now? Why did you say we've got to publish this now?
Right. So because of the pandemic, people started thinking differently. They started opening up their eyes and looking at different avenues and realizing more is possible. I don't want to get down the road and say, what if? I don't want to let one opportunity pass me by. And you and Heidi and so many other ladies in the book talk about the data when it comes to women in sales and how women are rock stars in sales, but it's just there's so few of them. So the pandemic put us all in a position where we were really rethinking our lives, our professions, our careers, and so on and so forth. And so when Heidi reached out, and she said she wanted to do this, I said, like she said, let's do it. That's one of my catchphrases. You can come to me with anything. If I like the idea, let's do it. I don't know how it's going to get done, but we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
But it was really a time to shine a light on another opportunity that's always been there that maybe women just didn't think about. And so many women, so many people in general, period, so many women are looking for other opportunities to grow, to expand, to use their innate gifts. And that's the thing about sales. There are gifts that women have, the listening skills, the communication, the empathy, the wanting to help, the wanting to uplift, the wanting to serve. All of those bode well for a successful career in sales. So we wanted to just shine that light and say, hey, as you're looking and you're trying to find a bigger purpose in life, as you're trying to figure out what is it that's your oomph, that's your special secret sauce, take a look at sales. You may be surprised that you've already been doing sales. And there are some ladies who talk about that. There are ladies who talk about if you've ever negotiated with your parents to stay up an extra hour, if you've ever, worked at a restaurant and you suggested this side as opposed to that side, or you added on a dessert. And there are just so many great examples. But they say, if you've ever done this, that, the third, think about it. Most have. Then sales could be a career for you. So it was just a perfect time. And then Heidi picked the perfect release date of International Women's Day 2022, March 8th. So it just all came together. It was just a confluence of great ideas, perfect timing, and a great leader in Heidi and her organization, Girlz Who Sell, to just bring it all together, Janice.
Yeah. Absolutely. I echo that. I've written a book before, and this process, because of you two, it's like, I don't think I'll ever write a book again. On my own, doing it. No, I mean, as in doing it, it was so much easier. And honestly, I've read this book, and it's like one of those books you cannot put down. Because you go through one story and then you think, oh, just read this one, and then you just keep reading. There is so much in the book. So I feel it's not just for women that might be considering a sales career, but also, I mean, I've been in sales for a long time and I'm fascinated. There is so much in there to delve in. So it's one of the books that you've got to have by your bedside table. It will lift you up. It will give you tips and hints, and you'll recognize that you're not alone. It is such a fabulous book. So, for those people that are aligned to the values of the book and the campaign, how should they get involved?
Yeah. So there's opportunities. I think you'll, drop the links in the podcast that you can pre-order the book up until March 8th. So, and you can get a discounted price. Post International Women's Day, March 8th, you can still order the book everywhere. So it will be at that link. It'll be on Barnes & Noble, on Amazon, just about everywhere that you can think about ordering a book. You can buy it. And then Janice, as you know, we're hitting the road, right? So we've got on March 4th, we're doing a book signing and book launch. And so I know it'd be sort of last minute, but if you happen to be in the Boston area on March 4th, certainly drop in at the More Than Words bookstore to meet some of the authors, hear the stories, eat some great food, some good wine, and join us. So that would be fun. And then we have our author launch on March 8th, which is virtual. And then we're heading to Dallas in July, we are heading to Los Angeles in October for Women in Sales Month and Day of the Girls. So we'll have another book signing in LA. And then there's going to be a host of virtual events. And of course, anyone who wants to just connect with me on LinkedIn, I'm super accessible. Feel free to reach out and send me a request to connect.
And I would ask all of the listeners, not only to buy the book, and certainly you'll love reading it, but to share it. There's always going to be another woman in sales or a young person that's considering a career. You need to buy it for them as well. You need to share the post. We've got to get the word out, because I know that you said, Heidi, that and Bridgett, you did the research. There's nothing like this book already out there. So we really need to get the message out. So what would you say, Bridgett?
Absolutely. I love the point that you made earlier, Janice, about this isn't a book just for women who are thinking about sales, who are new to sales. But if you've been in it for years or even decades, this is a book that will reignite your passion. It is a book that just reminds us of what we already know, but sometimes we just need those taps on the shoulders that says you can do anything, and not only do it, but you can rock it out. So it is just that hint, that reminder that you are amazing and that you can do this. And so even if you're a veteran in sales, it really is a book that just puts another light, another fire under you to keep pushing forward.
Yeah, and I love that. And the other thing is you're absolutely right. We've had a lot of interest from companies who have approached us that said, hey, we have a women's ERG, right? And we have hundreds of women, in our ERG, and we want to do a book club, or we want all of the women in our ERG to read the book and then have a conversation about it. And so if anyone listening, wants to do larger scale orders for that purpose, Bridgett and I will work with you on that for sure.
Excellent. And, I thank you for asking me to contribute to this wonderful book. I really do appreciate it. And I can't wait to see you both in Boston
Yes.
for the book signing. It's really exciting. And so thank you both so much for being a guest on Scale Your Sales podcast, Heidi and Bridgett.
Thank you, Janice.
Thank you. It's been awesome. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Scale Your Sales podcast. If you like this discussion, feel free to listen to other episodes or watch the captioned show on YouTube and subscribe to future episodes. I would really appreciate it if you would leave a positive review on iTunes. Thank you.